If someone asks me now how to get started in photography, I'm just going to say, first thing you do, draw a dick with a sparkler. And if
20-second shutter.
If you can do that, you come back and see me. I'll give you level 2.
I'll give you the next quest.
Now add balls.
now
You know?
You are listening to GORCAST, you idiot.
Yeah, he looks cool. He's rocking the sunglasses.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
done this a time or two, I feel like.
I have, but I don't know if I've ever done a podcast with sunglasses, but it's bright in here, so I just kept them on.
Smart. Troy Conrads. Is it Conrads with an S?
It is actually, no, it is Troy Conrad.
Troy Conrad. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, man. Thank you for coming on the pod, dude.
Thank you.
So I have a lot of different people on here. Like I have comedians on, musicians on, all different kinds of people. But when I've had like my photography friends on in the past, I just kind of like to ask, like, you know, what kind of go through the story, because to me it seems like a lot of people want to do photography for a living, you know, but they don't necessarily know how to. So I mean, you know, that's kind of like the first thing I wanted to get into is just like, when did you like pick up a camera at first? You know what I mean? We'll get into a bunch of different stuff, but like, what's the story on how you got a camera in your hands? That's what I was really interested to know.
Yeah, well, it's a weird story. I was this was a long time ago. Gosh, I forget which year this was, but I went to see Steve Harvey at the Improv, and I was an audience member, and there was a photographer there. He was shooting the show, and about halfway through, not even halfway through Steve Harvey's set, he had a stroke right next to me and fell partially onto me.
Steve himself did?
No, the photographer.
The photographer
He was like
did.
right next to me. And he collapsed, and we didn't know he was dead at the time. But they took him out. His camera, they left his camera there, and it was just like right there. So I just picked it up and just kept, I didn't really know how to use it, but it was already, like, the settings were there.
Yeah.
And I just started shooting pictures of Steve Harvey.
You're like, somebody's got to do this.
Yeah, and afterwards I just like gave him the camera, and he goes, "I appreciate you doing this," and he took out the memory card, and then he gave me the camera, and then I gave him my info, and he called me the next day, and he said, "You're really good. You're better than this other guy even. Like, this is really great. Do you want to come on the road with me?" And so I ended up doing a few gigs for him, and then that's how it all started.
No way. So just putting yourself in that situation, that's just kind of happenstance.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I made up that entire story.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was
Well, you got me, dude.
No.
Holy shit, that would have been crazy.
I was just messing around.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been crazy.
I mean, that's actually like that'd be a good movie.
That'd be a good
intro.
origin story.
That'd be a good origin story.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just like this guy stroked out next to me, and then
one fateful day.
Yeah,
someone had to do the camera.
Right. It's the photography version of School of Rock.
Yes, exactly.
But,
yeah, exactly. He goes to a job that's not his.
Yeah. No, I think I have to do this from now on. I've never done it. I think I have to do this from now on in interviews, because talking about photography can be very boring.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like, imagine if like NPR, that'd be the genre, like NPR on photography. Like, it's like, well, this is a radio show on a visual medium.
Yeah, one of the most boring radio shows ever, I guess, would be.
Yeah. But I mean, how I got into it was, I mean, I started in stand-up a long time ago, and I did the road for many years, and then I started creating shows for television. I just needed photos there were no comedy photographers, but I needed photos for our publicity, so I started taking photos, and it was literally just for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a background in photography and filmmaking, but I didn't think photography was even interesting.
Like, you went to school for it? Is that what you had a
No,
background?
my dad was a photographer and got me into it early. And then I trained myself in filmmaking early when I moved to Los Angeles. So basically, I just needed photos that we could send out to the press for the show. And my partner on the show, Paul Provenza, he goes, "Oh man," he's like, "Dude, these are really good." And it just kind of, I went, "Really? I mean, they're just photos." And he's like, "No, this is really, look at this. And it just got me thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this a little more then. And it just made me enjoy it, I think, just having feedback up top. And that's really how it happened. And then everything else was just very organic. People started saying, hey, will you come take pictures of this show? And then I went to the Comedy Store. My buddy Paul Provenza calls me and goes, hey, you got to come see this show called Roast Battle.
Nice.
In the belly room of the Comedy Store. And I go, okay. And I came and watched it, and I went, oh my God. Now, people might know, that listen to your show might know Roast Battle as what it is today, but it was a different show at that time. There were elements of that show that it's kind of like Tropic Thunder. Like, you can't make it today.
Yeah, you couldn't get away with it anymore.
It's exactly like, except way more extreme than Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine.
I mean, there was so Jamar Neighbors is now well known here in Austin, but he was part of a three or four man group called the All Negro Wave. It was him, Willie, it was him and Jeremiah Watkins, and they and some other guys, and they would run out on stage and do a 1 or 2 second mini sketch when someone had a great roast. So that was the exclamation point. And just as an example of how awesome this was, things that come to my mind. One time, Jeremiah Watkins runs out on, like, again, someone has a great one-liner, right? Jeremiah Watkins runs on stage, pulls his pants down. Jamar comes with an electric razor, shaves his pubes. This all happens and the pubes fall on the stage. This all happens within 2 seconds. Now they're back in their seats because they're sitting right to the side of the stage. This happened throughout the show. When someone had a good line, they would do something random and fucked up.
So it wasn't even based off of the line. Like,
no,
what the
it had nothing to do
was.
with that. It just had to do with a organic, ridiculous celebration of that moment in whatever fucked up way they could think of. One time, some famous porn star runs on stage and lifts up her shirt, and they're both sucking on her titties. Like that. Yeah, crazy things happened. And then there was the racist haters table, which a great comic named Earl Skakel sat to the side of the stage. And he was sort of an independent, he was independent from the judges, and he would roast the shit out of people, but always from a very racist angle. He was a designated racist, so he got away with everything. I mean, he would say...
Was he a white guy?
Yeah, he's a white guy. Yeah, he got away with everything because you expect it. And there's a sign next to him that says racist haters table.
That was the character.
That's his character.
Yeah.
So he said things that you would just go, today you go, oh my God. The city would come in and shut the building down.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It'd be all over the internet. It'd be all over the internet.
And imagine the travesty of watching something like that and no one's recording anything. No one's taking pictures of these amazing moments.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, this is I left going, this I had like this like sick feeling in my stomach. I went, this is terrible. Like, no one's capturing, just the people in that room get to see it. I mean, that's cool and everything.
That is
but
cool. But
other people should see this.
it should be documented.
It should be documented.
Yeah.
So I just came in there. I was not welcome at the Comedy Store. I was...
What do you mean?
I was not in that circle. Like, the Comedy Store is a clique, you know? It's a group that you have to be invited into after years and years. Mm. And now I'm this dude that I knew some people there, but most of the store clan, I wasn't in that group. And so I was this outsider, and they were like, there's no pictures allowed at the store.
Right. It would have been weird for you to walk in there and try to take pictures of everything.
Yeah, it was like, there's no photography allowed here and all this stuff. And I just went, I get it, but I still think the worst thing would be to not photograph it. So I just kept coming in and shooting that show. And then I started taking pictures of other places and comics in the store. And people, the regulars there, a lot of like the newer comics and stuff, they hated me. Mm. And they would talk shit about me online. There's this fucking guy coming in with his camera
into
bullshit.
Our house.
Yeah, like, this is a sacred space, man. And I just I
Which I
believe,
get it, but
yeah. Oh no, dude, I do too.
yeah.
And I was really torn because I'm like, oh, I mean, I feel bad about this, but it needs to be done. Sorry. So I kept doing it, and then eventually, those same people were like, "Hey, we take a picture of me."
The table started to turn a little bit. The tone of the conversation started to shift.
It started to shift, and then people
Yeah.
realized like, "Oh, I can put this on my social media, and it's
Right.
cool." And so, and again, there was no photography at any of the clubs in LA. I mean, it just
Weird.
didn't exist.
Because that's a normal thing now. I mean,
Yeah, that's a
if your
very
place
normal
doesn't have a photographer, you got to figure it out, right?
Yeah. That was, I mean, it was unheard of. So I just kept doing it. And now we had, the Improv had a guy named Mike Carano who shot people on stage. And he's legendary. And if you go to pretty much any improv in the country, his work is up on the walls. He's amazing. And I've known him for like 25 years, and he's incredible. He doesn't do it anymore, but he sort of did all that on stage stuff. And then when I started doing it again, I'm just reinventing the wheel for myself.
Right.
For me, the backstage stuff was more important than the on stage.
The hang.
The on stage is great, but the hang and those moments backstage that you kind of wonder, like, what's it like with all these legends? Like, what's it like when Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz and Ari and all these guys are just like smoking weed in the back and having a great time, and Norm Macdonald and like all that stuff was important to me,
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but they talk so much on podcasts and stuff about in interviews about how important that is to their creative process too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's definitely, I think, an important thing that people, that somebody's documenting it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they might even remember where they came up with a certain joke. Oh, I remember that night. It was me and Ron White. You know what I mean? Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, nobody's documenting that, then that's the problem.
Yeah, like I remember Ron White coming in with it when he drank, and he would come in with his award-winning tequila number Juan, and he would bring in a bottle and just into the bar in the back, and he would just pour drinks for us. He's just a guy coming in with a bottle of great tequila, just everybody's drinking. And I just went, this is a fucking great moment too. Like all this stuff, So I always had a camera with me and, made sure to document everything I could, tried to just be aware of everything.
But it does seem like a weird thing for an outsider to try and do, though. And so you had to get the relationship with those people, I imagine, right? That like, yeah, Troy's always here. If he's got the camera, he might point it. Like they don't even think about it. You're just there taking a photo. You know what I mean? So you can get those moments kind of like candid and organically. You know what I mean? Or like because it'd be weird. Those moments probably wouldn't even happen if there was just some weird guy in the corner that they didn't know with a camera.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything is built on trust. If people know the work of rock photographer named Jim Marshall, who started in the '60s. I mean, he's like one of the most legendary founding fathers of live rock music photography. This guy was a savage. He has a book called Trust and he named it that because that's what is required to be a photographer. You can't if you're not emotionally regulated. It's not gonna work.
Right.
If you throw tantrums, even in the slightest way, or you have demands of people, or you misuse an image, you're done.
Yeah.
Trust is everything.
Yeah.
So
it's fragile.
Yeah.
The whole thing is fragile.
And so Rogan was the first person to buy a print from me, and he trusted me, and and that was like that first acknowledgement of like, oh, I'm in the right place in the universe.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing it, and the best moment was when one of these guys who was kind of, I would say, kind of bullying me, like, talking shit about me all the time. There's a lot of people, but this one guy was the worst. He was instigating everybody. And he came up to me maybe like 3 months in, and he's like, hey, man, I was kind of unfair to you, and I just wanted to apologize. I was like,
nice.
Whoa, what a cool thing, man.
You're like,
I've never forgot that. Like, that was one of my favorite moments ever
Yeah.
at the store, because this guy hated me, and he would just see me, and you'd see him turn to somebody and say something, and that fucking guy, you know. And he's like, he goes, I misjudged you and all this stuff. And like that was like another good vote from the universe. You know? It's like, I'm in the right place.
All these little W's kind of add up.
Yeah. So it made me realize I was in the right place. And, you know, and that's how it happened. And then when Joe opened his club here, he's like, I want you to come out. And so I've been coming out for a year and a half and you know, flying out, shooting. And now I got a place here.
Oh, you live here now, or you have a place here now, part-time?
I have a place here now, and you know I'm still on the road and all that, but I'm here enough. I'm here for most of the time 3 weeks a month. You know, some give or take.
Yeah. How do you like it?
Dude, I love it.
Been having fun, getting some good shots that you love at the mothership.
Yeah. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would ever. I didn't think for sure I would ever live here, and then maybe
in Texas.
Yeah. And maybe about 6 months ago, I was like, this is going to happen. I waited for the right place to open, and
Right. It's like when you're coming here all the time to have fun, you're like, wait a minute, maybe I should live near some of that fun. Like, that's how it was for me when I moved here anyway.
Yeah, and there's a need for it. So I got a place that I'm turning into a photography studio as well. It's an amazing space for that right downtown, and you know, I'll be able to shoot a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. So was there like a moment where it shifted? I imagine at first you were doing like, you had like a part-time job and you were trying to like kind of build whatever this was that's happening over here with the Comedy Store and with taking photos of comedians and stuff, right? Like, were you okay? So you didn't have like
starving.
You were starving. Okay.
Starving. Like, can I afford water today, or am I going to go into 7-Eleven and get a free water cup? That kind of thing. Yeah, because in the beginning
you were punk rock about it. About photos.
Yeah, like
Sick.
Look, the model for success is the same thing with comedy, same thing with anything today, especially in the arts, is you do it for free, then you pay to do it, then you do it for free, then you get paid, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, you know,
that's a good way to put it. I've never heard it
so
really laid out like that.
I paid to do it in terms of. I paid for the amount I paid for parking in West Hollywood just at the Comedy Store alone, and the parking tickets broke my bank. I had no money coming in. There were certain shows where they'd give me like $50 to shoot the show, and you know that didn't cover my expenses just to come out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was paying to do it, and I'm buying all this gear and lenses and everything, and then I start breaking even. You know,
right?
And then
you get some money for it once, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
people are getting paid for this.
Yeah, and I remember I was sitting at a cafe, and I would go to this cafe and just work from there on my laptop and edit and stuff all day. I would order a side of scrambled eggs, and then I was there all day. That was my rent for the day.
Yeah,
like my office.
Yeah. Not bad.
I'd keep that plate on my table all day, so it looks like, oh, he must have just finished.
Right.
I was there 9 to 5. And I got a call randomly from Tom Segura, and he's like, "Hey man, I really love the stuff you're doing. Will you come shoot my Netflix special in Austin?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was great." And he shot it. I think this show was at, I can't remember if it was at the Paramount or if it was at ACL Live, but. That was
kind of recently?
No.
Okay.
No, this was like
Years
20. Ago. This was the one in 2017.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that was like that moment where, all right, now I'm making money.
Right.
You know.
Now I'm in. People are calling me now.
Yeah.
Like it's different. I'm not like, hey, can I shoot this? Hey, can I shoot this?
Right. And now the clubs are starting. They realize the value, and they realize like. Now, when I'm busy, they would rather pay me to be there than just have me not be there because I'm busy doing another paid gig. So that demand, it was kind of organic, you know. Yeah. Like I didn't ever demand money or whatever. I just did good work, and that's have you ever read the Tao Te Ching?
No.
Okay.
You're giving me some good stuff,
dude. Fantastic short book. It's the book of Taoism, and it's translated beautifully by a guy named Stephen Mitchell. And there's a great part of that book that says, do your work and then step back. And that's really been my philosophy. Like, you just do good work and things will come to you. Things will happen. If you're an MMA fighter, you bust ass, you do work. You don't go in and demand, a title fight.
Right.
You earn it, and people go, how can I not have this guy?
You stay so far in your own lane that people want you in theirs, kind of thing, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've kind of dealt with some of that too. It seems like a weird psychological flip happens where you become the guy that people are trying to hire, and that and then you're like too busy, and then you're like, sorry, I can't,
right.
unless you want to pay me a deposit or something, you know what I mean, or however you structure your business. But it's like I've kind of dealt with that too, because I do so full time. I do photography for a living, videography, photography for barbecue restaurants. That's why I want. That's why it makes sense to talk about photography here, because there are people
that did not know that.
There are people that listen. But yeah, I do. I kind of do a lot of different things in that same way. I've never heard it explained like that, like the Tao Te Ching, the Taoism explains it. But that's a good. It puts it in perspective, I guess.
It's like they say in relationships. Like, relationships are about not just finding the right person. Everyone's focused on finding the right person, and that's such a stupid external way of viewing it. People say it's about finding the right person and more so being the right person, right? So you work on yourself on the inside, and that's why I mentioned earlier emotional regulation. If you don't have that, you are not the right person to work with. Nobody wants to work with you. Even if you're a comic, if you look at like the most success, like I work with the best comics in the world, and that's one thing that they have is they don't throw a fit like you hear about, like rock stars backstage and all that stuff. It doesn't work that way in comedy. If you make it in stand up, it's usually a humbling experience,
Right.
You live in your car, you're grinding and grinding, you're working for free, you're working for $20, then you're working for 50, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with a career. It's not finding the right career, it's also being the right person for that career.
And a lot could be said about being just a good hang, right? And in comedy and even in photography, I've noticed, because I remember kind of meeting a lot of photographers, especially where I'm from. I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
So it's kind of like everyone and their mom is a photographer. Everybody's got a camera. It's a hard place to do business because everyone's got a buddy with a camera. All the restaurants, my wife does it. Or what the value of what we do is much lower in a place where everyone's doing it. And I came out here and it's like everyone's like, dude, I need pictures. I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's go, But it did seem like a lot of those people that I would meet, I'd go to meetups sometimes or whatever, Instagram, let's meet up and let's go shoot.
Was that helpful?
No.
Why not?
Well, because I already had my like buddy who was like my rock that we always would go around and take photos. It's like really brought out that creative energy in me. You know what I mean? He's back there in Portland still, but a lot of these guys I would meet, it was all kind of like they were trying to, get something from you, or they were just weird and just kind of like I feel like the typical photographer personality type is more introverted, artsy,
True.
Right?
Generally true.
And it's like you're not going to have that guy in the green room at the mothership. You know what I mean? Or so you got to be a good hang if you're going to be, getting called back constantly. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, why am I not getting booked? Why am I not getting why am I not getting called back? And it's like, well, how'd you do? How were you acting?
Work on being the right person,
right.
Not on giving societal pressure for somebody to hire you. Like it's like that. The artist Chris Rogers has this big painting in the Mothership, and it says "Be undeniable," and he's quoting Rogan because Rogan always says that. Like if you're trying to be the best at something, you just keep grinding at it,
put your
and
head
then you
down.
get yourself to a point where you're what Seth Godin was, great author. Another one, if you don't know.
Sure, I'm actually looking for books and stuff to read.
Dude,
so.
well, I'll tell you a life-changing book called The Dip.
Grodin?
Okay, Seth Godin. G-O. All you have to do is Google Seth. Okay. He's the first person that comes up if you put Seth in Google. Mm-hmm. He talks about being a linchpin. So you make yourself so valuable that people can't not have you. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? You do it by competing with yourself. and never feeling good enough. If you ask me what level I feel like I'm at level 4 with everything in my life.
Feel that.
You know, I wake up and I go, oh, you fuck up, you're only at level 4. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You piece of shit. Those are my positive morning affirmations.
Same.
And that's made me a better person.
Yeah. People do go down kind of an unhealthy road with that, though, don't you think? Sometimes where the only thing you're never giving yourself flowers ever. I mean, I know you shouldn't give yourself flowers all the time, but it's okay to be like, hey, we did kind of good, okay on that one.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
Although I would agree with you if you have mental health problems, which 70% of our society, women, have a lot of. No, but it just does seem to be more prevalent. So. Yeah, if you already have mental health problems,
right.
Sure. Then, but if you're ahead of that 8 ball, then you have that room to work with and say, "Hey, what are you going to do, you piece of shit?"
Yeah.
I don't look down on myself when I say that, right? But I have a couple gifts that I was born with. One of them was low self-esteem. Another one was boredom, and those two things have been the most instrumental parts of my life and my career and being better at anything I want to get better at. Getting bored easily.
Yeah.
I remember Doug Stanhope had a great bit about boredom, and he was like, boredom is a disease worse than cancer and all that stuff. And I for some reason, that bit stuck with me because I was like, is that the worst thing in the world? Or because I have that. But then I went, I think just looking at it factually for my life, maybe one of the best things.
Like a driving factor.
Yeah, because if you're bored, you can be a victim and you can go, nah, man, I'm just so bored. This isn't for me. Of course you're going to get bored with anything, with a career, a relationship, something that you've got good at and then you're doing it again. Anything you're not good at. You get bored. But that's the dip. That's why that book, Seth Godin's The Dip, is so good. Because when you start a project, it's exciting. You're up high on the, you're up high riding this wave on the mountain, and then you have to do this work. It's like, I'm going to make a movie. You're way up here.
Right.
I'm going to shoot this movie.
We got the budget.
You're way up here. We got the budget. Holy shit. And the actors this is so fucking fun. Now, let's wrap the movie. Where does it go? All the way down. You got to edit that shit. You got to work now, or you got to
stare at it for hours.
Or you got to pay a bunch of money to somebody to edit it, and you got to work with them, and you got to argue with them, and you have to creatively work it out, and that sucks. And most people quit at that point because now they're at the dip. So you either quit before you make that movie, or you not at all. You ride it out,
right?
Because if you quit after that, you just wasted life, energy, time, resources, all the things. So you go through that dip. And then you come up, now you're editing. Oh my God, we're finished.
It's looking crispy.
And now on the other side of that dip is an even higher peak, which is, oh my God, we're putting it out there. Right. We're getting feedback, getting into festivals, blah, blah, blah.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't imagine making a movie right now. It's just like,
what do you mean?
I just mean I couldn't imagine like with what I know about doing camera stuff and how much work it already is for what I do. And I'm not even close to making movies. It just seems like making movies. It's not something that I really want to do, so that's fine. You know what I mean? But it seems like so much work. Like once you really start thinking about it and you're like, oh, you got to pay actors, you got to pay makeup, you got to find location, you got to, you know what I mean? You got to have snacks for everybody. There's all this like shit. There's all this other shit that you don't even think about, you know?
Coming from a very disorganized person like myself, you're right. It's a very complex thing. All the things you said are true. There's a million other factors that you have to, all these details. And at the same time, if you want to do it, it's incredibly easy. You just go and make it.
Right.
You just go, hey, let's just go out here and shoot some stuff.
Yeah.
And I made this sketch with a comic named Eddie Pepitone. He goes, hey, I want to do this sketch where I climb up Runyon Canyon, but it's like we treat it like it's Mount Everest. And Runyon Canyon is a half-hour hike in Hollywood, in the middle of Hollywood, that actors do at lunch. Okay. So, and it's comical. And it's people texting while they go up and down this little hill. but he wanted to climb it as a thing, and so I said, "All right, let's do it." We just show up and we do it. There were no permits. We did it illegally, and this little 2 hour of shooting turns into we got to come back in a couple days and do, and then it's day after day after day, and we're hiring other actors. And
it's just snowballing at this point.
Snowball is supposed to be a 5-minute thing, and it turned into a like a 30 or 40-minute film.
Yeah,
and it was the dip of it was absolutely insane. Like, I mean, talk about emotional pain of the dip of like I want to throw all of the hard drives out the window and never deal with this again.
Yeah,
it was that bad, but.
Why?
Dude, editing plus working with an editor, which I eventually had to do, and the arguments of the conflict of like, no, I want that. This is an important thing to have in there. Oh no, man, it's not going to work. It's stupid. I go, okay, I see what you're saying. Let's put it in anyway, and you have to do all these things with it. When you're working with an editor, if you're directing something, you have to do this process. You don't just leave it to the editor to direct everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, so I hated it, and we finally got it. And Funny or Die was alive at that time, and they featured all these things. Then we put all the 5 episodes together into a film, submitted it to. I just submitted to 2 festivals out of. I'm lazy. So it was thrown in my lap. Hey, submit for these, and I submitted the film, and it got in both, and it won at both.
Whoa!
So I was like, I should have fucking submitted to more festivals. Right. And it's a great film.
What's it called? I'll look it up.
It's called Runyon Just Above Sunset. Eddie Pepitone, who is one of the most brilliant comics of our generation, he climbs this half-hour hike. It takes him 5 days. A Sherpa, an expedition leader. He has 100 pounds of gear in a backpack, cooking utensils, everything.
And it's just a short little. It's just a short little hike. Thing. Okay, so that's.
But he's a fat guy, and it and it takes him a while, and so imagine 5 days to get up a half-hour hike that people are doing at lunch between auditions.
It's like Naked and Afraid, but on a 30-minute hike.
That should be the sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be a sequel.
Yeah, Naked Running Above, Running Just Above.
Yeah. So, that's free out there on YouTube. That thing. But that's the process that's so hard. But you come through that dip, and now you have something. You've made something. You've completed something, and that is the best.
Do you ever like struggle with burnout at all with doing what you're doing? Is that basically how you do it?
That's another gift, right? Yeah. Like burnout just comes from accepting boredom. You're like, oh, I'm so bored. I'm burnt out. If you're really burnt out it's different. If you're working in a cubicle job that you hate and you're burned out, well, you either accept your fate or get the fuck out and do something,
The only way out is through, is what you're saying, basically. You just got to push through it, and then you come out on top.
The only way out is through.
The only way out of the burnout or out of the boring stuff is if you just kind of keep pushing through it, and then you'll get another peak again when you get it finished, when you get that puppy out, or when you know what I mean, whenever.
Yeah, you don't do the same thing every day. I know people who have thrown darts at a map and moved there, and they had a good life. I know at least 3 people that I've met that have done that, and they've had amazing change in their lives from that.
Yeah.
It's think of how much courage that takes, by the way. A dart?
Yeah.
In a city you don't know, you just, oh God, what
are you aiming toward one that you like? Oh. And then you hit something around there? Like, you're aiming at Austin, but you hit Tulsa. And you're like, damn it.
Detroit. Oh, fuck. I'm in Detroit. But and they worked, So it's like if you want to change your life, do something extreme. And one of the top things is to get out of your current environment. Any psychologist will tell you that. If you want to change your life, change your environment.
I guess you could do that with taking pictures of different shit. Like for me, I do a lot of food. So anytime there's any, I love it and I get stoked on it still every day. But then there's some days where I have a lot of shit to do and I've already been doing a lot of food stuff. And I'm like, dude, You know what I mean? I don't want to look at another piece of brisket today.
Right.
But then I'll go out and just take some pictures of buildings or something. That's what I like to do. That's what gets me kind of stoked. That's how I started, was just walking around Portland during the pandemic when there was nobody around, taking pictures of the empty streets and the buildings and kind of that street photography lane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
And,
found a way to get out, to change your environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so the cure for boredom is to find a different way to do the thing you're already doing that's making you crazy. So let's say you got bored taking pictures of buildings. You haven't taken every angle.
No.
You haven't taken every focal length. You haven't taken every configuration of, are there people here in front of it? Are they, like, there's a million things you're missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Go to a new city and take pictures of different buildings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or I love seeing creative. There's this guy I follow on Instagram who's like took photography to a level I didn't even think about. His name is Andrew Skivington, and he takes these pictures. You have no idea what the picture is of, but it looks like almost like an acid trip. And then he might say in the caption of like, this is just a close-up of glass on a building that's reflecting a thing. And you go, what the fuck? It looks like you put like a frog in a blender.
Cool macro shit. That's
but it's
everyday average shit.
right.
Yeah.
But it's not always even macro. Sometimes it is, but it's just brilliant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to know, like, how did he do this? Because it's just a different level, you know?
Stacking and all that.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that that really gets you stoked that's not taking pictures of like comics and stuff that is or the backstage, anything involving that you like to take that's just like completely different that kind of gets you stoked, reignited, like buildings for you or
not
something?
Not the comedy world?
Yeah. Is there anything that you are just like, man, I'm going to like, or when you're going through your Lightroom or whatever you edit with, you're like, oh shit, like you see something that's not a comedian picture and you're like, oh, that fucking gets me stoked.
Yes, totally. So I love taking pictures of skateboarding.
Oh.
I love it.
Like people midair and doing tricks and stuff?
Yeah, like
Nice.
skate parks and stuff. I haven't done that in a while, but when I was starting, it got me like on fire. Like, and my old early Instagram has a bunch of stuff. I used to go to Venice Beach and just shoot these guys, and there's always a million photographers doing it, but I just always tried to get something different, and it was so exciting. I can't skateboard at all.
Me either.
I also love taking pictures of motorcycle, like dirt bike stuff. I haven't done a ton of it, but I'm passionate about dirt bikes, so that's a fun thing. But yeah, it is about like finding, the other things that excite you.
Is that your muse? No, that's not that wouldn't be a muse.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It would, yeah.
Well, your muse would be
Why you create.
anything that inspires you, right?
Yeah. I always get confused on
Yeah,
that word.
and then I love light painting. That's probably the number one thing. And it's one of the reasons. One of the reasons I'm really excited about getting a place here is having all this gear that I don't have to have in a suitcase every single time I travel.
Right.
And I can't bring enough stuff. So now I have all this stuff, and I love light painting, and I'm going to be doing a lot more
Can
of
you
that.
tell me more about what that is? Because I don't know everything about photography. I don't pretend to know.
It's just it's long exposure.
Oh, okay. So with the trails,
with
and stuff.
light trails that you create.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
So, and you actually are using light to paint an image in that.
So you'll take like one of those lightsaber looking things,
Yeah,
some kind
yeah.
of lighting
So-
rig like that.
The shutter might be open for like 15 seconds, and now you have that time to paint.
Yeah.
So you're just using that digital frame as a
Oh, I
canvas.
get it, yeah.
And it's really cool stuff.
That's when you see people write their name in a sparkler or some shit like that,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Love.
That shit's fun.
Yeah. That's how
You could draw a dick doing it if you're quick enough, right?
That you can draw a dick, absolutely. That's how you start.
That's how you
That's
start.
level one.
That's level one is
That's
drawing dicks with sparklers.
Drawing dicks with sparklers is
That
absolutely the way
actually
to
sounds
start.
like a fucking good time.
If someone asks me now how to get started in photography, I'm just going to say, first thing you do, draw a dick with a sparkler. And if
20-second shutter.
If you can do that, you come back and see me. I'll give you level 2.
I'll give you the next quest.
Now add balls.
now add
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now add hair on the balls.
Yeah, no, that's the way to go, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing I did is I went, when I started, I went to Joshua Tree with those candles that are, little battery operated, little votive candles.
Like the ones they have at the mothership, like in the
Yeah, like on tables at
on
restaurants
tables at comedy clubs and
that
stuff.
aren't a real candle. Yeah,
Yeah.
And I just like stood in the middle of the desert at night and was trying to write
Nice
things, and
What'd you write?
it was a total fail. I think I wrote my name. I wrote the word love. And I should have drawn a dick. Now that I think about it, like that would have been such a great. How did I fucking miss that?
Would have been a good tie-in for the funny, you know?
Right? Yeah, and also another cure for boredom: drawing dicks with light.
You're like, I know what I'm doing tonight.
That's going to be my first book, by the way.
Yeah, drawing dicks with light.
And it's like real serious cover.
No, yeah, dead. It's like you just just an up close headshot
with a really nice studio that's well lit. Yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that takes you out of that that orbit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you educated me today, and I'm sorry I didn't know that you were a stand-up too. And so when was stand-up before photos?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine's
photos.
flipped. I started basically getting integrated and meeting people by going and shooting photos. I was already making money off of the restaurant stuff, and then I was these guys don't have money to pay me, you know. So I'm just gonna go take photos and try to help, and I want to be at the show, and I love comedy, and I've been going to the shows anyway. So try to get in with my camera, take pictures, and give them to people. Yeah. And so I was doing that for a while, and then somebody finally, do you know Yonder?
Yeah, I love
so
Yonder
came on the podcast and told me to go try stand up because I do music stuff already,
nice.
and he kind of exists in that same coming from music to go to stand up, and so I started doing it like that. I haven't taken photos at a comedy show in a while. And maybe I should. Maybe that's my drawing dicks with light.
There you go.
Maybe I need to go back and try to take some photos of people at Creek and stuff, and just to help, just to flex those muscles again. But
that's today's lesson. Everyone needs their drawing dicks with light.
Yes, that's the
life.
Title of the episode. Is drawing dicks with light.
Yeah. Light up your life
with dicks. But so you were doing stand up first, and then started taking photos at the show.
Yeah, I started stand up, and I did years on the road, and I loved it, and I never wanted to stop. But then I started making these stand up shows that were fun and creative, and that took me. It took me so far into that producing role, right, where it was kind of stressful, and I had to pick. Like, am I going to devote myself to this and really make it work? Or am I going to also do some stand-up and let this thing kind of, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. So I decided to stick with it. And so that took me like 99% out of stand-up. Some of the time I was just hosting, but that was really just to keep the show moving kind of thing. Like, I was like, I'm done with... I don't have time to write. I don't have time to go do sets. Everything was devoted to this show called Set List, and it worked out really well. It became a TV show overseas. Most people don't know it here except as a live show in the States.
What is it?
So it's you walk on stage as a comic, and behind you is a projection screen. And you have no idea what your set is going to be. So instead of your set list, I'm writing weird shit as a set list, really weird shit that no one's ever had.
Always you? It's always you writing it? Okay.
No one's ever had any of these topics on any set list ever. And it makes no sense until you decide what it means. Because life is meaningless until you decide what that means. You create the meaning in your life, right? Same thing with stand-up. You see some words, it's like a Rorschach test. You decide what that is. No one ever looks at a Rorschach and goes, well, what is it? What's the right answer?
What is that again? Is that the
Rorschach inkblot test? Okay, where it's like weird pictures of something. Like, no one's like, well, what's the answer? Like,
right.
That's not the point. The point is, what do you see it as? Yeah. So this show is like a Rorschach test. So you have these weird topics. You turn around, you see it behind you, and you look out at the audience, and you confidently go into that as if you've been doing that for 5-10 years.
Okay.
And that's Set List. So that became a TV series on Sky Atlantic in the UK. And it was...
Sounds awesome.
It was awesome. This was in 2012. And it starred I mean, it was Gilbert Gottfried, Robin Williams.
Wow.
I mean, Drew Carey. It was half American comics and half British comics. And it was
Ricky Gervais, was he on it?
No,
it was before his
we
time.
did want him to
Okay.
do it. He would have loved doing it. It was just the most amazing, special thing, and the comics love doing it. And you're not burning material; you're creating material. And I've always been a big believer in improvising stand-up because that's how you can generate material. And people don't put enough pressure on themselves to create, and that's the only way you can really create is by putting that pressure.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you still do that, or does it still happen? Does it still go on?
The pandemic kind of killed everything for now, anyway. The last show we did was, I hate saying it, was on Zoom.
Oh no!
And it was just before he passed away. Gilbert Gottfried did the show. He did I think the longest set that's ever been done on the show, which is about 45 minutes. And that's a long improvised set. Usually it's 10 to 15 minutes max, because then there's like this kind of burnout feeling of like, okay, I've done everything I could do. It was, I remember running the show, Zoom. So I'm running this thing from my office on a laptop, and I could hardly see the screen because I was crying laughing so hard, because Gilbert became more Gilbert than anything on that show.
Yeah.
And he starts into his Hitler thing, but he's making all this stuff up, and it was just magic.
Yeah.
So
Bring it back in Austin, dude.
what?
I said bring it back in Austin, dude. People would love that. Do it at Creek.
I talked to Red Band. We did it at the Creek in the Cave in New York, a long time ago. But I've talked to Red Band about putting it up, and that's a possibility.
Sweet.
So, so that may happen. It's just a matter of like getting everything settled here and all that. But I think it would be a killer show.
Yeah.
It'd
be a ton of fun.
It's a blast.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was just because I was kind of like learning on the fly how to take pictures of comics, like when I was first starting to do it. And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of weird, because it's like a combination of like, it's not quite music photography, but it's also not quite portrait because people are moving. You know what I mean? So isn't it kind of like a blend, or like, I don't know, like how do you pick the right moments, I guess?
It's much harder than music photography.
It's harder than it looks, yeah.
It's much harder than music photography, because when you're taking pictures of a band, you have these smooth movements of their mouth.
And it all looks cool.
And they, a lot of times they have these cool lighting packages. Right. And I mean, oh man, it's like rock star shit. It's great.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, even if it's just a band in a club with the same lighting as a stage, it's still going to be better because you can get better facial expressions. And the problem is that if you take pictures of comics, you can't capture them mid-sentence where they're like, and their mouth is all contorted sideways. All they're doing is talking, but you're capturing the wrong moment. Like, no one wants to see their mouth all twisted.
Right.
So that makes it harder. You have to catch, I think it's just about catching the joy of that moment. And you just find it, Yeah,
you got to catch them when they're not like, this sucks, like in their head. You know what I mean? Like when they're not, like, 'cause some comedians will be visible, I guess, about how when their set's not going well,
Yeah, you could catch
it's probably an inexperienced
but as
thing,
long as they look, like that could be an iconic look. They're like bummed out. They're like,
yeah, you're right.
That could be cool.
Damn,
it just,
didn't hit or whatever.
Yeah. So when I say capture the joy, it might be the what do they say in the UFC when they show these little recaps? It's like it's like the glory and the defeat. It's I forget what the wording is, but
glory and defeat, or I don't know.
It's something like that. It's like, let's just say it's glory and defeat.
Yeah.
That's what you want to capture, right? One or the other, but you don't want to capture in between where they're like,
It looked like
and
having
their
a stroke.
look like they're having a stroke.
Right.
Yeah. It comes full
Like
circle.
that comic that was next to you the first time you ever picked up a camera.
Exactly. That's how I started.
Dude, you scammed me right out of the gate, dude. You had me in the palm of your hands. I was like, no way.
Should have kept that going.
Steve Harvey, the photographer fell over. And
You should clip that. Like, do you do clips of this podcast and put them out? You should just clip that and then leave it as a standalone.
Yeah.
And not give the part where I
100%
say
that you were fucking with me.
Yeah. Like that would
Be
just
like
be
legendary story of how legendary
that would be
comedy
so
photographer
fucking funny.
started.
Because now everyone gets trolled.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more fun.
It'll be
than that.
Troy Conrad lore.
Good. That's
it'll
right.
It'll be lore, dude.
If you're a good person, you enjoy being trolled.
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe it. Everybody wins on a good, fun troll. Like, oh man,
You got
fucking,
me.
that's a win-win.
Yeah.
If you're a bad person, you're like, what?
Yeah. Oh, look, you made me look dumb.
Yeah. Like, that's stupid. Like, there are people like that.
Yeah.
Those are generally bad people who have serial killer brains.
Well, it must be a low IQ thing because I think everyone, like you're saying, who's a good person, they know what it's like to get somebody like, I got your ass. I made you believe that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when someone else has that, like when you got it just now, I was like, oh, nice. You know what I mean? You fucking got me, dude.
No, it's super fun.
You were straight face trolling me with sunglasses on.
The sunglasses
And
probably help.
I'm just like, dude, I don't know who this guy is. You know what I mean? I'm happy to have him in here. And you're like, yeah, so this crazy story.
I think every time from now on that
You gotta make
that
up
someone asks me that, I'm just going to make up a different answer on the spot because, again, that's a cure for boredom. I really do. When I said it, I was like, I kind of get bored talking about photography.
Oh, yeah,
like, it's such a weird thing to talk about.
I know. I'm sorry.
No.
This has been
great.
Yeah,
this has been great.
cool.
I'm just saying, like, generally, it's like, you're saying the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have fun.
To me, I'm interested in why people get into it because I feel like somebody who shouldn't have been allowed to be a photographer because I have other skills that help me. Like I'm good at talking to people and I'm, you know what I mean, a natural people person and I'm a good hang and then I also got this skill. So it's just like been a weird thing for me where like I feel like everyone's story to how they started is so different and unique that I'm interested in that and then how everybody gets to a point where they can, like live in their car and ask for forgiveness, not permission to go in and shoot, right? That's something you hear in photography all the time. Like instead of asking, can I get in here with my camera? Just fucking walk in there. And if somebody says no, then you're like, all right, it's all right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But everybody kind of has a different story of like how they got to doing it full time. And for a lot of people that I know, a lot of my friends and peers and stuff that are in the music world or whatever, trying to take pictures at shows, the idea of doing it for a living is a joke. Like it's so far away from because they work at a restaurant and nobody pays them to do stuff and they're, you know what I mean? They don't feel like they're good enough. And it's like that self-worth thing is huge. You know what I mean? You start working on your craft and having fun with it and then set your self-worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why I like to get people on here. I know it's talking about photography on a podcast can be boring to some people, but for me, it's important for people to hear like other people's version of how they got to be doing it for a job because there's people out there that shouldn't be at the fucking Olive Garden that should be doing photography full time because they're good at it.
And
you know what I mean?
that's the story of life right there.
Right.
There are people who are at the Olive Garden and they're wondering how to get out of the Olive Garden and it's taking that first step and who knows what that is, but
it could be fucking up. Like it could be going out and bombing a photo shoot and being like, I got my first big gig and the lens cap was on. Something dumb happened. You know what I mean? My memory card was full or it's like battery died, and then you learn from there.
Yeah.
You kind of bottom out and like nuke yourself in the beginning, and then from there you're like, okay, now I know what to never do again, and then you start to rebuild like that. I feel like that can happen too.
A lot of people like write to me, hey, what advice do you have for? I'm starting out in photography, and I always say, number one, try this week to go out there and just make as many mistakes as you can. Take some kind of chance, so it puts you at risk of fucking it up. Yeah. Do something wild. Who knows what that is? Because the more mistakes you make, the better. That's how you get good. And I try to do that all the time. I'm at level 4.
Still making mistakes.
I'm just trying to get better and make mistakes. I'm going to keep making mistakes. I'm going to make more mistakes this year than I did last year, and next year I'm going to really top that. I have a thing right now where I'm doing arm wrestling, and I'm arm wrestling people way bigger than me, and my goal is to lose 100 matches this year against bigger people. Here's my fucking plan. In 2025, I'm going to be a monster.
You're going to be jacked.
I'm going to be, I don't know how jacked I will be, but I'll tell you this, I will be stronger, and I will not look like I'm as good as I am.
You're going to be just as jacked as you are now, but with Popeye arms. You're only going to have, you're just going to have Popeye arms.
Popeye arms.
Yeah.
But I will be wrestling, you know, I'm gonna put a table out on 6th Street and I'm gonna fucking just wrestle bodybuilders, yes. And I'm going to beat them left-handed because I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
So 2025 is going to be a success year, but
right.
I'm trying to
That's
lose
your
this
championship
year.
reign.
And so go find your thing, go find your arm wrestling, and make your goal to lose as much as possible. Here's another great book, a book I've read 30 times on audiobook, and it's by the former world chess champion Garry Kasparov, and it's called How Chess Imitates Life. Great fucking book. And if you do it on audiobook, it's the best narrator that's ever done audiobooks. This guy should get a fucking award. And that book, he talks about lose as much as your ego can take it. That's great advice. Lose
it's a good one-liner.
Lose as much as your ego can take it. Yeah. Some people so Garry Kasparov, that dude is legit. And one thing about him is he hates losing. He does not have good emotional regulation if he loses.
So he's not one of those guys we were talking about that doesn't throw temper tantrums.
He's one of those guys who, if he loses, he's going in the back and he's going to kill a puppy.
Not a good hand.
With his bare
when
hands.
He's losing.
Right. But he knew that about himself, that in order to get better, he would lose. And so he has this story about how he was on this roll in chess where he was just like beating every grandmaster, boom, 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 beating the guys that he grew up watching, like that he looked up to, these legends that were unbeatable. And he goes, I know I'm about to lose in the biggest way, and I'm going to be depressed. Like I'm setting myself up because I'm winning and winning and winning. There was no losing. And so now he's not learning anymore. He's just riding these victories. And he goes, oh no, it's coming. And it did. You know? So, and then he got better.
That lesson you were putting off for a while.
Yeah. It's like this, like a chart where you're going up and then you lose, you go down, down, down. And now you go up a little higher the next time because you're learning. But if you just keep going up, you're setting yourself up for a bigger fall, and it's harder to take that.
And you kind of brainwash yourself like I'm good at this. I'm good. I'm done. Right? There's no more to learn. And then so it hits even harder when you do fall down for a second. You're like, oh fuck, I thought I was the shit.
Right. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So lose as much as you can take it.
Absolutely. What time are we at right now, dude? We're cruising.
2 to 1 hour.
What? 2 minutes to an hour. We can wrap on this. I just wanted to touch on the boredom thing real quick one more time. You were that got me thinking about something with my own life where like I have that same boredom with like the normal 9-to-5 life. Like I can't. That's why I've chosen this like weird path. You know what I mean? For you, it was like living in I wondered if you shared that same boredom too. Like if you had some before you decided to live in your car and go and be poor for a while you chase this comedy photography dream or whatever. You know, it's like what were you doing before then? And did you hate that enough to be like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to not be that bored again?
No, I was doing stand-up before that.
Oh, you were doing stand-up. Okay, yeah.
So,
I guess before all of it I'm talking about.
Before all of it?
I guess, yeah.
I had like a million weird jobs.
Yeah.
When I moved to LA, my first job was, it was like an ad for making balloon animals for kids at parties.
No way.
And I took it, I didn't know how to do that, but I took it because it paid like, at that time, this is 20 years ago, it paid like, it's like $30 an hour or something like that.
Wow, I didn't know balloon animals was a trade.
Balloon animals, man.
That was considered a trade.
And dude, I nerded out on that shit. Like I got so into. I wasn't amazing at it, I'll say it, but I was like okay enough where I can start making things, and I was like, this is so fucking fun. Like it's stupid, but it's so fun.
Every time you popped a balloon, you were like, lose as many times as your ego allows you to.
I view that as, I get real. I start doing motivational seminars on how to make balloon animals. The key to life is the dog.
Yeah.
So but dude, I would like be drunk and I would go, like I was working the road at clubs, and I was bringing balloons with me, and we'd go out with the staff and drink, and I was bringing balloon animals out at the bar.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking wild. Sick. We went to this bar in Tucson, Arizona, and it was a Hell's Angels, like a real Hell's Angels bar, not a biker bar, a Hell's Angels where people murdered people. And I brought balloon animals because I'm a little bit oblivious, and that's the key to my success. Is I'm stupid, and that has led me to where I am.
Ask for forgiveness, never permission.
Yeah, and I made this big mistake because it was karaoke night, and I did some song, and then I said at the end of it, I go, hey, at the end of the song, I go, free balloon animals for all the Hell's Angels. Now I didn't know the grave mistake that I had made. Someone comes up to me afterwards when I walked off stage. The guy was kind of quiet in the room. And they said, Big John wants to talk to you in the back. And I go, okay. Now, of course, nothing's wrong, so I'm not that scared. But then I walk into this room, and it was like those movies where there's just a single light hanging in the middle and two chairs. Like an interrogation room where probably people have been
where they
killed.
take you and you're counting cards.
Where you're just talking, and then someone comes behind you with a plastic bag over your head, and now you're dead. So I'm sitting across from him, and this gigantic 6'5", 300-pound dude named Big John goes. He says nothing. He just stares at me, and he goes, "We don't talk about what we are." And now I have no idea where this is coming from. So I go, "Okay, well that's cool." And then he just looks at me again. Long pause. "No, we don't talk about what we are." And I go, yeah, well I'm down with that, I said, and then I was like, is something wrong? And he goes, you just said what we are. And I still don't know, I'm stupid. I still don't know. He goes, we don't say Hell's Angels. We have narcs looking for us 24/7. We don't announce that. So that was like, it was like an underground thing.
Right.
Like, but my friends were like, yeah, we're going to this Hell's Angels bar. I didn't know that you don't talk about that. That's the first rule of Hell's Angels.
When you said it the fourth time, you went, oh, we don't, oh, that, oh, yeah. I did say that on stage, didn't I? I said Hell's Angels, didn't I?
I'm like,
son of a gun.
You're sitting across from a retarded person. I don't know anything, dude. And then so I was like, I didn't know there was anything wrong with that. And he goes, don't ever do it again. And I said, oh, dude, I will never, I promise you that. I would never say that again. And he goes, and one more thing. I want you to make a balloon animal for me. And I go, okay, what do you want? He goes, 81. And I go, okay.
Like the number?
Yeah. I go, why 81? He goes, because that's our code. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and A is the first letter of the alphabet.
Nice. That's pretty rad.
So I made him 81, and then all the other Hell's Angels asked for 81s.
Oh, I want one. They were all stoked on it.
To see these fucking tough bikers with long beards, they got blood on their jacket and shit, and they're fucking each other's. Like the ones are fucking the 8s.
Yeah.
They're drunk walking around, and their balloon animals are fucking the heads of other balloons.
Yeah.
It was the wildest thing.
Dude, that is hilarious. That's a skit. That needs to be fucking recreated.
Yeah, you're
right.
right.
That needs to be turned into a movie or something.
Dude, you're right, because the whole thing was cinematic to me. Like the number one was that light in the middle of the room in this dim. It was like that yellow.
Yeah. And just like big, angry, bearded, like Hell's Angels guys, like just like glowing, just like like fucking the balloon animals, just stoked on a little childish thing. That's fucking awesome. The contrast there, it's perfect.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking wild.
Well, you survived, Troy. Thank you for coming on the podcast, dude. I appreciate it. Maybe we'll have to have you back if you had a fun time. Hopefully you'd come back.
Yeah.
I like to have
No, I'd
everybody
love
on
to.
every once in a while, once a year.
I'll
check
be
in
back
with
every
people.
week, man. Yeah.
Come back every week. man.
You know what? Can we do that? Can we do, since you said you clip up the show,
Sure.
can we do a fake story real quick, just a quick one, and then you can clip that, and it looks like there's some crazy fucked up story?
Yeah, and they have to wait till the end to find the story find out it's fake. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
let's do it.
So ask. I don't know what this whole thing's going to be, but ask me about. Say you might have had an encounter with the Rainy Street Killers, and then that's
okay.
where the clip would start.
Right. So I heard you might have had an encounter with the Rainy Street Killer guy.
Oh shit! He told you about that. I didn't want to talk about that, but it was because it was kind of a traumatic thing. I did. First of all, when I started coming out here, I had no idea about this. I'm not a local. I don't know all this stuff, but I didn't know there was a guy doing this. I don't know if it was the guy. I definitely didn't see him, but I was just walking. This is like 1 a.m. after a show. I went up, and this guy grabs me from behind to choke me, and he drags me into an alley. And now I know a little bit of jujitsu, so I was able to get out of it. But he had a knife, and he stabbed me. Like he tried to stab me in the cock, but he hit my thigh. And I mean, no, believe me, it's funny that he's trying to stab me in the cock.
Right.
But it's also traumatic. I could have lost my
Right.
dick on that.
Yeah.
And it was the scariest thing. And I was able to escape, but it was like a blood trail. I had blood gushing down. I had to go to the ER. They stitched it up. I still walk with a little bit of a limp. It's still hard. But that's jujitsu saved me in that. And I never got a look at the guy because it was dark. But it was fucked up, man. Like, that was my introduction to Austin.
Jesus. Well, I'm glad you made it.
Thanks. Okay, that. I think and by the way, I think you clip it at that was my introduction to Austin. You stop it right there.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll be like, no way. Dude, you're helping us make viral content for
And
the pod.
by the way,
bro.
if you're mad, if you got to the end of this podcast and then you're mad, you're a bad person. Like,
Right.
it's fun to be trolled.
Yeah, you can either be offended by something when those feelings come up, or you can not be a pussy.
Right.
You know
There
what I
you
mean?
go. There you go.
But yeah, Troy,
Dude,
do
I
you
had
have
a
any-
blast, man.
Dude,
Thank you for having me.
I loved having you here, dude. Thank you so much. You want to plug anything or let people know where they can find you?
Yeah. I mean, just my Instagram's pretty much the only thing I use. Troy Conrad with an S at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So Troy Conrad's on Instagram. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to plug right now.
Dude, there was so many good takeaway one-liners in this pod. So
good.
definitely, hopefully, got stoke some people out and get some people, get their flame going.
Right on.
Get them out there.
Go out there and fail.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Appreciate
Sure,
it.
man.
Yeah, we'll see you around. Guys, thank you for watching and listening. Follow Troy. Check out his photo work on his Instagram. And please like and subscribe and everything. And we'll see you in the next one.
You are listening to GORCAST, you idiot.